Are the Browns going to be making a splash move in NFL free agency next week? Plus, what's the latest on Joe Flacco potentially returning to Cleveland? And speaking of returning, how about a homecoming for the local linebacker Jerome Baker after his release from the Dolphins? All that is on tap for today, so let's not waste any more of your time and let's get right into it with the first on a potential splash free agency move in the works for the Browns this upcoming free agency period. It is definitely all-in mode for 2024. And if there is one team in the NFL to be no stranger to making a splash move, it is Andrew Berry. He likes to be aggressive, and he's got an owner who is very happy to write big checks for star players. So put those two things together, and you can never eliminate the Browns from being in contention for a big splash move. However, history would not say the Browns have made big splash free agent signings. And I think that's important to remember because as a student of history, it's important to look back and see what have the Browns done with Andrew Berry as the GM. The biggest contract, and this kind of surprised me, I just forgot about it, was Dalvin Tomlinson, 4-year, $57 million. For all the star players on the Browns roster right now, they've never given out a contract more than $60 million through free agency. Austin Hooper is second, by the way, 4-year, $42 million. So with that being said, if we're talking splash moves in free agency, I think it's going to be via trade. That is something Andrew Berry has done time and time again, right? Last year, Elijah Moore, Zadarius Smith. The prior offseason, Deshaun Watson, Amari Cooper. And these are just a few of the bigger trades, right? He's had plenty of other trades like Mac Wilson to the Patriots, for example, or Case Keenum to the Bills. So if we're thinking splash, I'm thinking trade. And if we're talking trades, I think it's important to bring up what currency do the Browns have in the trade market, which 90% of the time is draft picks. They've got a second, they've got a third, 2 5s, and 2 6. Now, the 7th and the 6th rounders, they're not going to get you a whole lot, right? Amari Cooper went for a 5th, if I remember off the top of my head. So I think you got to look at the left side of the screen when it comes to what ammunition do the Browns have to make a big splash trade. Well, there are some really good players on the trade market, reportedly. You've got guys like Stephon Diggs and Mike Williams, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, and Brandon Ayuk, all at a position of need for Cleveland, which is wide receiver. Diggs is definitely intriguing since he's no doubtedly the best of the bunch right there, but he's also going to cost you the most. And I don't think the Bills would move on from him without getting a first-rounder back, which is something the Browns cannot offer. Same goes for Brandon Ayuk. Now, as for the defensive players, L'Jarius Sneed is rumored to be available. The Browns don't need a corner, though, so let's move on from him. What about pass rusher? Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa apparently could be for sale because of Harbaugh coming in and kind of cleaning up that locker room a little bit. Both carry big cap hits for this season as well, and both getting up in the age. At least Mack is, and Bosa has just been unreliable the last couple of seasons due to injuries. Hassan Reddick is reportedly available for a trade, and then Jonathan Allen. I mean, he basically cried at a press conference a few months ago, wanting to go somewhere to win finally, so why not take a trip down to Cleveland? But this is the year to draft a wide receiver. It's very difficult to find good edge rushers in rounds 2 and 3 of the draft. Whereas at wide receiver, you can get a DK Metcalf, a Devontae Adams, a Deebo Samuel. Like, there are some really good wide receivers that came in rounds 2 and 3 of the NFL draft. You want to find good edge rushers in rounds 2 and 3? I think you'd be surprised to see how slim pickings it is. So I'm much more game to trade for an edge rusher as opposed to trading for a wide receiver and then drafting an edge rusher in round number 2. Having said all that, though, the Browns aren't the best at drafting wide receivers, right? As it's been pointed out to me numerous times, most recently by Deion Owens, Cedric Tillman, David Bell, like 2 recent day 2 draft picks for the Browns. And it's still too early to judge Cedric Tillman. Put my Tennessee bias aside. I definitely had higher expectations for him in his rookie season. But I think we have a pretty good idea as to who David Bell is. And he had a nice end to the 2023 season. However, I don't think he's really ever going to be more than just a backup slot wide receiver. Michael Woods, Anthony Schwartz, like 3 straight seasons of going wide receiver in round 3 and not a lot of fruit from the labor to bear. Now, as for some cheaper wide receiver trade targets, because Diggs and Ayuk are going to cost you a first in my eyes. You've got Mike Williams, Jerry Jeudy, and Courtland Sutton. Williams has been rumored to the Browns a bunch because of the connection with Deshaun Watson back at Clemson. Jerry Jeudy is a very intriguing option because he's got the age factor benefiting him, former first-round pick and Biletnikoff winner back at Alabama, whereas Courtland Sutton was the most productive of all three guys last season, right? Unfortunately for Williams, he suffered a torn ACL in what was a very strong start to the season, but Sutton put up 10 touchdowns. So if you're looking for a big frame to throw out in the end zone, he's your guy. Now, we have plenty of other splash moves to look at in just a second, but first, warmer weather is on the horizon. We are almost out of winter and into spring, and warmer weather leads to, well, more sweating, and that means a funkier crotch. But with Mando whole body deodorant, you can nip body odor in the bud. Put it on your pits, your package, feet, and beyond for whole body freshness. From the makers of Lumi deodorant, Mando is clinically proven to work hard all day. Instead of covering up BO with heavy fragrances and taking a Portuguese shower, Mando stops odor at the source. Now, the dog pound can get $5 off with a starter pack with our exclusive code CHAT when you go to shopmando.com. That's shopmando.com and use code CHAT to get $5 off the starter pack. I love having this deodorant at my desk because with the warmer weather, I go back to walking to work, and it's about a 20, 25-minute walk, so I can work up a little bit of a sweat, especially when summer gets here, and no one wants to be the smelly guy at the office. And with Mando, I can eliminate that. So make sure you get started today. Get that starter pack. It's perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, and free shipping. And like I said, it's all $5 off, which equates to over 40% when you use code CHAT at shopmando.com. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. So let's get back to some splash trades the Browns could make during free agency. What about edge rushers? Like I said, it's tough to find good edge rushers in day 2 of the draft. Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Hassan Reddick, and Jonathan Allen have all been murmured to be available for a trade this offseason. And I know the Browns have had some level, or at least rumored to have some level of interest in Christian Wilkins, the prominent Dolphins defensive tackle. But let's say they get outpriced for Christian Wilkins, which wouldn't be the first time. Last season, remember Javon Hargrave, Jesse Bates. They went with 2 cheaper options, Juan Thornhill, Dalvin Tomlinson. So if they ultimately cannot land Christian Wilkins, how about a Jonathan Allen trade? He's been with the Commanders since being a first-round pick for them back in 2017, 2018. A highly productive player that works on the interior, but also has a great pass rush upside. You put him next to Myles Garrett, Dalvin Tomlinson, and Okoronkwo, and that's a defensive line ready to roll. Plus, we know Jim Schwartz loves finding defensive tackles that can also get after the quarterback. Tomlinson was brought in to stop the run, which was a dire need for the Browns last offseason. Now, with a really good defense, we're looking to play with house money here. And Jonathan Allen could be a piece that really pushes an elite defense over the edge. So who do you want to trade for? Of the 10 names we just ran through, was it one of those players? Was it someone I left off my list? Let me know in the comment section below. Let's switch gears and talk about Joe Flacco, because he hopped on a NFL radio show yesterday, talked about the Browns, talked about free agency, and I want to share it with you guys. He said, I can tell you all that all things equal, Cleveland is definitely the place where I'd feel best about. Now, then you have to get into the world of, is somebody actually going to give me a chance to play? And all the different things that go into that. But I can't help but have a special feeling about Cleveland. Just because of the few weeks that I spent there and how great the city was. And listen, at the end of the day, I don't necessarily want that to be a huge part or all of the decision. But I do think it will factor into the decision if I end up having a decision to make. I got bad news. I think Flacco's a Patriot. With AVP going over to New England and a lot of buzz coming, out of Foxborough that the Patriots want to draft a quarterback, but whether it's Jaden Daniels or Drake May, they could definitely benefit from having a veteran presence there, which maybe could be Jacoby Brissett. And if that's the case, that could clear up a path for Flacco to return to Cleveland. But I feel like with the way Joe Flacco played with AVP as his offensive coordinator, that's probably going to be the guy that AVP pounds the table a little bit louder for. And why wouldn't he, right? The comeback player of the year, 1,600 yards, 13 touchdowns after coming off his couch, helping the Browns get to the postseason for the second time in, well, I don't even want to say how long, but a long time. Joe Flacco is going to be, I wouldn't say a highly pursued free agent this offseason, but I think a lot of GMs, if they were planning on mailing it in for their backup quarterback job last year, probably woke up during the 2023 season going, wow, look to your left, look to your right. Half of them are onto their backup quarterback. You should probably have a good backup plan in place. The 39-year-old Joe Flacco will likely have a decent market. Now, with that all being said, I do want to ask kind of an off-the-wall question. Name a random Browns quarterback, because Joe Flacco is going to go down as one of the most all-time random Browns quarterbacks. So no, easy pickings, no Baker, no Watson. I'm thinking like Connor Shaw type of random backup. The more random, the better. To wrap up the show, let's talk about Jerome Baker for a moment here, because he was released by the Dolphins earlier this week to save nearly $10 million in cap space, and the former third-round pick out of Ohio State is, of course, a Cleveland native, and there were some, internet chatter, we'll put it, that maybe he'd want to come back to his old stomping grounds where he didn't play with the Browns, but, right, he's from the Cleveland area, and he liked to tweet about coming back to Cleveland. So, could we see Jerome Baker play professional football in the 2-1-6? The last 4 seasons for him in Miami, he's I would say downgraded. He's just changed his role from being an outside linebacker with some pass rushing upside to a more of an inside linebacker. And ultimately, well, the Dolphins are like every other team right now, making some cap-saving moves to get into free agency. And the Browns do have a vacancy at the linebacker position. JOK and Diabate, the rookie out of Utah, I mean, those are the only 2 linebackers that really played meaningful snaps for the Browns last year, and it was just JOK that are still under contract for 2024. Walker, Taki, like all these guys are impending free agents, and maybe the Browns decide we have had enough with the Anthony Walker injury carousel, so we want to bring in someone alongside Taki, and I'd personally just roll with Sion Taki and an NFL draft pick. I feel like the Browns have they have not drafted a linebacker in a couple of years now. It hasn't been since Tony Fields off the top of my head. So now would be a good time to reset at the youth level for that linebacker position. And I'm game to roll with JOK, Taki, or Anthony Walker, whichever the Browns feel is most suited to play linebacker for all 17 games next season, and a rookie at the other spot here. Because, yes, the Browns are all in for 2024, so going the more experienced route may pay off a little bit better short term, but I'm also not going to act like the world's going to end after 2024, hopefully. You do got to have some things in place for 2025. So I think drafting a linebacker could help reset at that spot. Now, Jack, before we get on out of here, we do have Mr. Jack Lauderay pushing the buttons today, which means he's got the wonderful chance to pick a card correctly. Jack, which card do you want to go with to wrap up today's show?
I'm going to do the 4 of diamonds.
4 has been very popular this offseason. I don't know why, but it just has been. I'm going to go with, give me the ace of diamonds. Ready? You were kind of close. 3 of clubs. All right. That's going to do it for us on today's episode. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We will sign off and see you all later with more Browns news and rumors heading into NFL free agency.